Welcome to the first lesson of our new unit on the Pythagorean theorem. Here I want you to read over the 6 goals that we have for this unit, which we expect to last 1.5 to 2 weeks from now. So if you need to, go ahead and pause this video so you can read all 6 of those goals. At this point, you should have already completed the simulation and watched the video explaining the simulation and completed the discussion. So therefore, as you're reading some of this information about the Pythagorean theorem and what we're going to be studying about it, some of it should sound familiar based on some of the basics you picked up through the introduction activities. Pythagorean theorem has to do with right triangles. We use the Pythagorean theorem to find missing sides in right triangles. There's some important vocabulary, including the word like hypotenuse, which is the longest side of a right triangle. It's always opposite the right angle. Now we can also use the Pythagorean theorem to determine if a triangle is a right triangle or just a different type of triangle. That's what this goal number 4 means. A big application of the Pythagorean theorem is to find distance on the coordinate plane. We're going to be doing that eventually. And then to look at some problem situations, which we're even going to start previewing a little bit today. Let's go ahead and fill out some of these notes. You can find a blank copy of these notes on the materials in Schoology. If you would like to print them off, you don't have to print them off. There's also a key available, which I'm going to encourage you to use to complete a few more problems after this as you continue your learning process with this. But that is optional. That's if you need it. You definitely need to watch this video though to see some examples to see how well this sinks in and then determine how much more practice you need to complete. So I told you already that the hypotenuse, which is this word right there, is the longest side of a right triangle and is opposite the right angle. So the hypotenuse is right there. This is your hypotenuse right there. Okay? The hypotenuse is always the c in the Pythagorean theorem. It's a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and the hypotenuse is always your c. Your legs are a and b. It doesn't matter which is which. The legs are interchangeable. They could be a or b. And legs, by the way, is the word that goes in this blank right here. The legs are the two sides that form the right angle. See how a and b form the right angle right there. Here is the Pythagorean theorem. It's very important that you know it. You will memorize it. It's not a very hard one to memorize. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. A and b are always the legs. C is the hypotenuse. Let's do a few examples here. So this is how we could apply the Pythagorean theorem. Let's look at this middle example on the top right here, the first one that's starred. You are given that 2 legs of a right triangle are 7 and 24, and you want to figure out the hypotenuse, which is your c. So the first thing you need to consider is the fact that you're given 2 legs. So therefore you're given A and you're given B. I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit here. You're given A and you're given B, and you need to find C. So how are we going to do that? We're going to use the Pythagorean theorem. We know a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I'm going to plug in what I know. So 7 squared plus 24 squared equals c squared. Then you're going to get out your handy dandy calculator. Hopefully you have one. And you're going to type in 7 squared, so 7, and then the x squared button. If you're using a phone, you have to hold it sideways to find the squared button, but hopefully you have a TI-30. 7 squared plus 24 squared. I type that in my calculator. I get 625 equals c squared. Now how do you cancel out a square? To find just c, you have to square root 625. So I'm going to hit, on my calculator, I'm going to hit second x squared to do a square root and type 625, and I get c equals 25. So that would be my answer. C would be 25. This hypotenuse that's highlighted red would be 25 units, or centimeters in this case. So there's a case where you found C. Let's do an example where you have to find a leg, like this one right here. Here, you're given your C. you're given a leg, we'll call it A, and you don't know what B is. You have to find a leg B. So now when we plug in, it's going to look a little bit different than the previous one. A is 10.5, so we'll say 10.5 squared plus B squared equals C squared, which is 17.5 squared. Okay, so here it's a little bit different. I can't just add these together in my calculator. I can't do that. I don't know what B is, so I can't do 10.5 plus B squared in my calculator. I have to solve this algebraically. So 10.5 squared is going to give you 110.25 plus B squared equals 17.5 squared, which is 306.25. Now algebraically, I need to get rid of the riffraff here, so I need to get rid of this right here. So how do I do that? I subtract 110.25 from both sides. So when I do that, B squared equals 196. And to get B, I need to square root. So I'll go second x squared, 196, and I get 14 even. B equals 14. Notice how B is less than C. A and B should always be less than C. C is the longest side of the right triangle. So C, without a doubt, should always be the longest side in the right triangle. Here's A, here's B. Those are both less than 17.5, so that passes the eye test there. If you get a number for A or B that's bigger than the hypotenuse, you know you may have done something wrong. Let's take a look at this next one. So there's a problem there. You're given the hypotenuse is 13 and the leg is 12, and there's Joe's work and Cole's work. And we have to determine if one of them is correct, both of them are correct, or neither of them are correct. The only difference is that Joe plugged in 12 for B and Cole plugged in 12 for A. Is that okay? Could you plug in 12 for either A or B? The answer is yes, because 12 is a leg. And as I stated earlier, the legs are interchangeable. So 12, the leg, could go in for A or B. However, 13 has to be C. The hypotenuse has to be C. So in this case, both of them are correct. They just plugged in 12 for a different leg, A or B. I want to take a look at number 4, the baseball diamond question for the baseball players or the softball players out there. So we're going to take a look at this baseball diamond here. It's a rhombus. We want to find this distance between home and second. And to do that, we have these distances right here. Notice how a right angle is formed by the distance between home and first and second. We have a right triangle here, folks. There it is. And how would I find the hypotenuse? Well, I'm going to use the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So 90 and 90 are both legs, right? So 90 squared plus 90 squared equals C squared. I can type in 90 squared plus 90 squared on my calculator all at once because they're both on the same side of the equation. I don't need to add or subtract anything from both sides. I can just clump those like terms together. So 90 squared plus 90 squared is 16,200 equals C squared. Let's square root that. I get about 127.3. So C equals 127.3 feet. And that's the distance between home and second. It makes sense that that distance is longer than the distance between home and first and second. It's the hypotenuse of that right triangle. One more example for you today. Here we have a pyramid. You guys hopefully know that's a pyramid. It comes to a point at the top there. The base of that pyramid is a square. So that means all the sides are 18.2 on that square on the base of that pyramid. You're also given the height of the pyramid as 13.6. And what we are tasked to find here is this distance right here. We want to find the slant height, which is this distance right here going along the side of the pyramid. You may notice just after I drew that picture that what we have here is a right triangle, folks. We have a right triangle right there. we know 2 of the sides, and we have to find that slant, which is the hypotenuse opposite the right angle. So I know the height is 13.6. I can let that be, let's let that be the b. b equals 13.6. What about a? Well, a is not 18.2. 18.2 is that whole distance. It's the whole side length. I just want half of it right there. This distance from here to here is half of 18.2. So half of 18.2 is 9.1. So be careful about that. And we're trying to find c. We don't know what c is. So let's go ahead and solve using the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. So 9.1 squared plus 13.6 squared equals c squared. Let's calculate that again. Because these are on the same side of the equation and they're like terms, you can just plug them all in at once into the calculator. 9.1 squared plus 13.6 squared is 267.77. That equals c squared. Now I need to square root that to figure out c. So second x squared, second answer, I get 16.4 rounded to the nearest tenth, which is 1 decimal place. 16.4 centimeters. So the slant height of this pyramid would be 16.4. The slant height actually helps you find the surface area. We don't need to do that right now, but that's what it would help you find. If I wanted to find the volume of this pyramid, you may recall that volume is 1/3 area of the base times height. You could figure out the volume with the information that you have right now. The area of the base, it's a square, and each side of the square is 18.2. You have the height right here. So on your calculator, you could figure out the volume of this pyramid. We're going to talk more about that in future mini lessons, but that is a potential application question that's coming your way. Reminder that there are resources all over Schoology, so please go in there. Make sure you check out the answer key to this document if you want to do a few more examples, and then check out the day 1 practice. The day 1 practice is modeled off of this mini lesson, so this video, the answer key, and the notes are going to be just a great place for you to look to get some of those maybe initial questions answered. And you can always schedule a conference by going into Schoology, go into that Google Sheet and sign up for a time to chat with me and or Mrs. Shemi so that we can help address any questions you may have. Thanks for watching.